In this video, we're going to cover the metrics module inside of MediaBeacon. First of all, metrics is included in every single MediaBeacon install. And to create a workspace for metrics, you would, as an administrator, go to Create. You could go to Workspace, and then there should be a template for a metric workspace. And what you have here are three components on the screen. You have a filter over on the left, which is pre-populated with the metric filters. You have a list view of assets, and I'll explain what these are because it looks like you're seeing multiple assets, but you're actually not. And then you have the graph right here. All right, so first let me explain the filters. Over here, you can add to these filters, but by default, you're going to have the date stamp. So, are you looking for data in the past 30 days, the last 3 days, or the last year, or all the data you have? Then you have username, action, subject, and field. And you may not use all of these depending on what you want to get out of the system. So let me explain what you see here. These are not assets. So, normally when you're going through MediaBeacon and you're searching for assets, you actually see assets here. In the metric workspace, you're not seeing assets. You can see that there's actually 7,199 records showing right now. These are actions. So think of whenever I, for instance, would download an asset, it would save a little action that's linked to that asset, and that's what you're seeing per every line. To show you that, if I click on my name, we're going to filter just my actions right now. And if I click on, for instance, let's do download. Here we go. You can see, so I have 145 downloads for me. And these downloads, you can see some of them I've downloaded the same asset more than once. So you can see the date stamp of when this happened. Then you can see that it was my name. You can see the action. And now, of course, when I click on this, it will look like an asset because this is an actual linked back to an asset, just so that we can see what I actually downloaded. But this itself, this record itself, is just basically a tiny record and an index remembering that download. And you can see there's 13 of these pages, so I can kind of page through them and find them. Exactly everything that I've downloaded. But most of the time, what you're going to be looking for is how many downloads I have. And you don't necessarily have to do this search. If I do, for instance, if I clear my name for a second, and if I just click on download in the actions, you'll see that these users and the number right next to these users, so there it'll actually show you what these users have downloaded. And then when you click on the users themselves, you can then get a list of all the times that they've downloaded. So it's not that I've downloaded 145 assets, it's I've downloaded assets 145 times. And that's typically the disconnect that I'm seeing when people kind of go into metrics. They think that, one, these are assets, and that these numbers are, how many assets I've downloaded, but it's not. It's how many times I have used the download action. Okay, so what I like to do here is to actually give myself a little bit more information about files. And what you don't see here is you don't see a file name. So what we can do is go to admin mode and add to the filter. We can add a file name. This is the one you want, file name in the database, and save. So now that I've added the file name to my filter over on the left, you'll see that I have the file name here and it shows up. So now I've got my username clicked here, and all of these assets are the ones that I've interacted with, but right now it's showing me these assets for all of the actions. So if I click on upload, for instance, you can see that I have 961 uploads. And if I click on upload, now it's actually showing me all of the assets here in the file name that I've uploaded. And it's going to give me a number. This is a demo site, so I will upload assets more than once. And that's why you see a count of 4 here, 4, 4, and so on. So I've uploaded these assets more than once. So this is just separating them out by file name. And then again, I can say, in the past 30 days, how many have I uploaded? And it'll show me here. Now, the thing is, if I uploaded 145 files, which I did, but 144 of them are no longer in the system. It's still going to remember 145, but it's actually only going to show me one result in here because all of the other assets that I've uploaded previously have been deleted. So it remembers that I've uploaded something, but it can't show a record attached to an asset because that asset is deleted. And that's why you only see one thing here. So you're not always going to have a one-for-one match between the number of actions that you've taken and then the number of files. And that's why these are empty. However, there are different pages. And actually, in this case, there's only one file, so that was the only one there. But that's why it looks empty here. So 145 uploads in the past 30 days, and only one of them is currently in the system. So we'll clear the date stamp and we'll clear the action. Let's take a look at some other things. Let's expand the action. So there's quite a lot of things as far as how many times I've logged in, things like that. So the login is actually interesting because I can go into login, then I can clear the username, and then I can actually see all of the logins. So who has been logging in and when. And this is where the bar graph is pretty useful too. So you can break it down. So if I go in the past 30 days for logins, I can go to the bar graph and then I can see, that there was actually a spike here on this day and on this day. And depending on whether you're looking at the last 30 days or the past year, these bars will either show you a month or a year. So it's dynamically adjusting. All right, so now getting out of logins, we'll go in and we'll do myself again, and we'll go to edit. And here are all the edits that I've done. And you can see I've edited fields and I've edited assets. And if it's a field, what you'll have here is all of the different fields that I've actually edited. And then here are some of the edits that I've done on this asset. And if I want to see more detail about the actual asset itself, I can use the history of the asset rather than metrics to figure that out. So I can use the metrics to narrow down what was edited or by whom. And then I can go into, I can right click on an asset and go into history. And in history, it's going to show me all of the history for that asset regardless of what the action was. And you can see here, I've got edits. And what's really nice about these records is that we'll show you what the value was before and then what the value was after I had edited it. So that's about it. There's infinite possibilities, so I can keep going into examples, but if you use the filters, you can get pretty dynamic as far as what you're searching for. And you can see all of the different actions you can search for and all of the different subjects you can search for. So a lot of times these are, used in conjunction. Show me all of the edited fields or all of the edited assets and so forth, or show me all of the logins by user and so on. What I also like to do is, let me go to, this is the librarian, and in librarian persona I actually have some saved metrics. So all I've done here is I've created a workspace, for instance, for failed logins. And in this workspace, I've already pre-filtered exactly what I need to see, and I removed all of the stuff that I would need to see for the logins. So in this case, I'm just looking at who has tried to log in, who has failed at logging in, meaning, they put in the wrong password or something like that. And I can see exactly how many failed logins there are. So that's one type of report. And this report is not static. It's just a pre-configured metric workspace that I like to go to. I can also look into recent edits. So all of the assets that have been recently edited are right here. So you can see I have a filter for username, but I have it by date. So the most recent edited asset is going to be here, and then basically a list of all of the edits. And again, if I'm interested into, so I can see here that somebody edited this asset, and I can again go to history to figure out exactly what was edited and by who. And I can see by who already, but if I want to see exactly what the edit was, I just go right into history. Okay, so I hope that was a good overview for metrics. Obviously, there's a lot more in metrics, but I wanted to make this video just to share some quick tips and tricks, and hopefully you have a better understanding of what metrics can do inside of MediaBeacon.